Hi there. This is Karen with Creative You Art Lesson Crates, and I want to thank you for joining us for today's lesson, which is a watercolor sugar skull. Day of the Dead is an interesting holiday celebrated in central and southern Mexico during the chilly days of November 1st and 2nd. Even though this collides with the Catholic holiday called All Souls Day and All Saints Day, the indigenous people have combined these with their own ancient beliefs of honoring their deceased loved ones. Basically what they do is they decorate skulls, typically made out of sugar, in festive ways, and they leave them on the graves of their loved ones. So what we're going to do is a fun skull decorated with lots of designs, and then we're going to add some watercolor. So I want to go ahead and get started with a pencil and paper. We're going to draw our skull. Let me get this out of the way. And here we go. We need to do the top of the head first, which is going to be an arc. It'll be somewhere towards the center of the page. And you notice that my paper is tall. It is called portrait or vertical. Vertical is where you can fit more tall items in it. So if we had a giraffe that we were trying to do a picture of, we would want it the tall way instead of this way, because if we did it this way, a giraffe would be very small. So we're going to start with our slightly angled down frown. We're going to swoop it over. Now on this side I want a flower, so I'm going to just draw a little circle to give myself a space to do a flower. I want to do an angle out and an angle out. We're going to pretend that the end of the head is right there. So just a swoop and a swoop. These are going to be kind of the eye sockets. Bring it down. Bring it down. Now we're sketching, so if you find that you need to adjust things, tweak things, you can do that once we've sketched the basic skull out. I'm known for going back and changing things, especially on these lessons, because I do free-handed as we go, so I make just as many mistakes as you might. We're going to slightly angle in, curve down, curve down. Now we're going to come down low with a line. That's the chin, and that chin needs to come up to the edge that we just drew. And that is the basic outline of our skull. Now these cheek areas need to come in and down. And the reason it's coming down is because our smile is going to be going in it. And over here somewhere, and over here somewhere, we want to do our eyes. And somewhere between the two cheekbones, we're going to do our nose. So that's my basic guidelines. I'm going to put down my pencil, that way you can see my lines better by me doing it in Sharpie. You can continue working in pencil until you're comfortable with your picture, and then you can go back and outline it with your Sharpie. Now you'll notice that you have a fine Sharpie in your kit. It is a very, very fine tip point. I will be using a very large point only because I need you to be able to see the lines that I make. So I would end up outlining everything. So you can see my picture. We got our nose. I'm not going to do my eyes yet. My nose, I want to turn it into a heart, so I'm going to put a dot between the two lines of the V. Bump in, bump in. Quite simple. My teeth, I want to figure out the center, and I want to do bumps that get smaller as I go out. Do it the other direction. can go this way too. I would like to outline those. Now when you do yours with the fine line marker, it will be much more detailed. Not quite so cartoony, but at least you get the idea. So for the eyes, I'm going to do a straight line at the top of my circles, and a straight line at the bottom of my circles, a straight line on the edges, and then I'm going to angle between the two. I want angular. They're almost like bolts for woodworking. I want to double this area. So I did a swoop down, swoop down, swoop down, and one more. Start at the top, swoop, down, down, one more. So it's just basically a little bit of dimension in there. Let's go ahead and put a flower in the center. Circle, circle, petal, all the way around. You don't have to do flowers, but I find that they're used a lot in sugar skulls. And in all honesty, you're an artist. You can do this however you want to. You want to change it up, go for it. I'm going to do a large daisy right here with long, thin petals. Now this is why it's important that you sketch it first, because notice with my Sharpie lines, they kind of overlap and it's not as pretty. So draw it in pencil, erase any extra lines, and you'll be good. Let's add some little polka dots, just a few. At the top of the head, I'm going to do almost a crown. One of my petals is in the way, so I just kind of skipped it. I'm going to do a little wavy line, bring it in. Wavy line, bring it in. And that's just kind of a floral look as well. I like to add polka dots anywhere you feel you need them. Let's do a little teardrop here and here. Stripe them. Let's stripe the nose. I'm going to add on the chin a bump, a petal, a petal, and a petal. And then in the middle, I'm going to do a small petal. Kind of cool, huh? If you want to add swirls, you can. It's up to you. Remember, with sugar skulls, whatever you do on one side, you need to do on the other side. And now let's add a little bit more on the outside. We're going to do another flower, another giant daisy. But he's going to be behind the sugar skull. So don't draw the whole thing. When you get to the skull, stop. Remember, add little dots and that'll cover up any oopses, any mess ups. I'm going to add a leaf over here. Notice I turned my paper. That's just to make a better arc for my wrist. A leaf, line down the middle, and dangles going down. You also want to do it on the other side. It's almost like a V going up. Can add another little flower coming up. So a line for the stem, a wobbly U, bring it to some points. Put an egg in the top and a little wavy line. I think I'm going to add a couple more leaves. Remember they angle, the lines angle. And I feel like it needs something else down here. So I'm going to put one more flower, but he's going to be dropped down a little. But he's going to go into this skull. Add your dots. Maybe a leaf. And I think I want to add a few swirls on the outside. These are all just extras that I'm adding. You do not have to, whoops, you do not have to do this. I just feel like it's needed for mine. It may not be needed for yours. As the artist, it is your decision. Now, before I paint my picture, I'm going to go ahead and sign it. And now's the time that you will want to pause the video and outline it in Sharpie. I've already got mine in Sharpie, so I'm going to go ahead and pause. When you're ready to start painting again, just hit play. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started filling in. Now you're going to want a water source, clean water. You're not really going to need a napkin, but you may want to have one just in case you get a little messy. And then you're going to need this paint here, which is what came with your kit. It is a wonderful paint. It's got its own little wells so they don't dry out. And you can store them as needed. Okay, so you're going to dip in your paint, dip in your water, and then paint your section. Now I'm going to start with my oranges and yellows. Just going to fill in whatever I want those colors to be. You notice that they're going to be a little transparent. That's because we've added water. Clean off your brush. You can add some darker if you want to. Clean off your brush. And the last thing I want to do is a little bit of the teeth. Just a couple of them. Little yellow, little rotten teeth. And some bright yellow coming all the way across. Alrighty. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my brush. Now I might need to go back to the yellows, but for now, I'm good. I'm going to go to a gray. Now you'll notice that your kit does not have a gray, but you have what makes gray, black and white. But in actuality, you don't need to mix the two. You have white paper. So by wetting your black and putting it directly onto your white paper, you're going to have a gray. Now, in order to make it a darker blackish color, you will need layers. But the thinner that black gets, the grayer it looks. Now this paint on canvas can easily be replaced or repaired by just wetting it and taking it off. Unfortunately, on paper, we're not that lucky. If you mess up, you mess up. So you want to be very careful. All right, so clean the brush. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to take my little wet brush and add some gray into the nose and to the teardrops. Just a little. Close it up. clean off your brush. And I'm going to shift over to my purple. Wet brush. You notice I'm not drying it off on a napkin. I'm just going straight to wet, from wet to the paint.